Hi, I just got back from watching Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. So straight out of the cinema, no notes, no anything. So this is kind of like a out of the cinema reaction review, I guess. So as always, if you don't want to, I try and keep it spoiler free, but if you don't want to know anything, why did you click on it to begin with? Anyway, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, I thought it was great. It was a fun time. Heaps of nostalgia. They're back in the Ghostbusters are back in New York after Ghostbusters Afterlife, and they're busting ghosts in New York again. So they're back at the old firehouse, which looks fantastic. The set is just absolutely great. Adam Savage has done a great behind the scenes thing of the set of this thing, and it's just like a lot of love has gone into like the sets and the practical effects and everything else. So it's really quite something to watch. Cinematography is excellent. Jason Reitman did not direct this one. It's Gil Keenan who directed this one. So a bit of a difference, although he's got Jason Reitman has co-writing credits on this. And right off the bat, we have a big new baddie in this one, Garakan, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is a fantastic new addition to the Ghostbusters lore and everything else. So I really liked how they actually built up the threat in this movie, but it does take a long time to actually build up that threat. So you could say the movie's almost a bit slow in parts, actually trying to build up this Garakan threat and building up the lore around this orb thing, which is the source of all the problems, all the new problems that are happening in New York with all the ice and the death chill. Now, one of the more surprising parts of this is that there's basically a side plot, a side character plot in this movie involving McKenna Grace's character, Phoebe Spengler. And that's not in the trailers at all. In fact, there's quite a few scenes in the trailers which are simply not in the movie. So it gives you the impression that there's a lot of stuff which ended up on the cutting room floor. Anyway, might get into that a bit later. But basically, the Spenglers are back running the Ghostbusters business out of the firehouse, and pretty much they're getting the side eye from Dickless himself. Yes, Walter Peck is back as the mayor of New York. So how you go from the EPA guy to the mayor, I don't know, but I wish they kind of had more of him in it. But yeah, he's sort of like he doesn't want the Ghostbusters to be around anymore, still believes they're a fraud and everything else, and he tries to shut them down. But I guess the biggest part of this movie is the characters, pretty much, and that's one of the downsides of the movie. There's so many characters, both old and new, that they're trying to give screen time to, and it's not a long movie, which is why I mentioned a lot of it probably ended up on the cutting room floor. They could probably do with actually releasing an extended cut of this thing to try and flesh out the characters more. But let's go through them and see how they impacted the movie. Of course, McKenna Grace's character, Phoebe Spengler, was the standout in Ghostbusters Afterlife and is pretty much the standout in this one too. And as I said, has this side plot which ties itself together in the end, and somewhat conveniently in the end, but that is not in the trailers at all. So they spend a significant amount of time doing that just with Phoebe's character. And it's really good because I won't spoil it, but Phoebe has some family troubles. Finn Wolfhard's character Trevor was kind of like more like a side character in Afterlife, and pretty much he's a side character too here. He pops up occasionally, does some things with one of your favourite characters, and not a huge amount else. If they left him out of the movie, you probably wouldn't miss him. One of my favourite characters from Afterlife was Podcast, and he's in this, and he looks a lot older in this one. So he's probably the character who's significantly changed his looks in this thing. And he doesn't have a lot to do, but he's kind of like hooked up with Ray Stantz in this one. And well, if you thought of Ghostbusters Afterlife as sort of like an Egon Spengler movie, and it pretty much was, it was like a tribute to him pretty much, then Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is pretty much a Ray Stantz movie. So if you're a Ray Stantz fanboy, there's a ton in this for you. He's in almost every second scene, and he almost narrates and tells the story because they have to build up the lore of this Garakan character, and he does that absolutely fantastically. So he's on fire in this one. I love it. There's lots of little moments where he just gives little looks and nods and things like that, and it just beautiful. So yeah, he's doing more than literally phoning in the exposition on this one. He is like killing it in this Ghostbusters movie, I'm telling you. Ray Stantz fan. Ugh. It's great. Now, I thought Winston Zeddemore would actually have more in this one, and he is in it a fair bit, but yeah, kind of underused a bit because he's absolutely great character, and of course he's funding the whole lab and the operation of the new Ghostbusters franchise. Just wish they'd given him a little bit more to do. And Patton Oswalt's character, he's basically works at the library pretty much, and he doesn't play a big role in this movie. I thought he'd actually play more in this, but you can probably leave his scenes out of this thing and it wouldn't change it all that much. Although the scenes he had, I thought they were quite funny and were nice, but yeah, he doesn't really have a whole lot to do with it. They could have just had Ray Stantz doing all this stuff. And one of the new characters from Afterlife, Lucky, she didn't have much to do in Ghostbusters Afterlife, and she doesn't have much to do in this one either. It's kind of like, yeah, no, underused yet again. I thought she was pretty good, but yeah, just not really in it much. And a big new character in this one is Kunal Nanjiani. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, I'm sure I am. His character plays a fairly pivotal role in this movie, and he's pretty funny. Lots of scenes in there, but there's lots of like forced comedy gags, and you're either going to love it or you're going to go, there's, you know, not too much, but I got quite a lot of chuckles from his scene, although he's involved in the ending, and it kind of like tension's building up, and then it just kind of kills it with his jokes and stuff. So I don't know, I have to watch it again to get a feel for that, but you're either going to think he's overused or you're going to think he's funny and a great addition. But I can certainly see his character coming back in another movie because he kind of has some uses, whereas Patton Oswalt's librarian character, he's like a folklore character. Not so much. You probably won't see him again. Now, in terms of ghosts, there's the old familiar ones, of course, you've probably seen in the trailers, but there's the new ones as well, also that you've seen in the trailers, and some others that you haven't. And one of them plays a reasonably pivotal role in the movie, so to speak. And the effects on the ghosts are great, especially Garakan, fantastically shot and everything else. In fact, the movie is fantastically shot. It's really quite well done. There's a lot of film craft in this one, I think. And one of my favourite OG characters, Janine Melnitz, of course, Annie Potts is back. And yes, she suits up this time, as you've seen in the trailer. But once again, kind of unused. It's mostly, as I said, it's mostly a Ray Stantz movie. So you're going to get a ton of Ray Stantz all throughout the movie. There's a fair bit of Winston Zeddemore, and Annie Potts sort of pops in occasionally and pops up the end, but doesn't really have a whole lot to do with it. And of course, Peter Venkman. Of course, Bill Murray. Yes, he's in it. He's in it quite a few scenes, and some of them are really funny. like they've got the mind-reading helmet back, and that's all I'm going to say. It is quite funny. So anyway, there's some scenes to Bill Murray, but kind of underused. And this is probably one of my criticisms of this one is that. The major criticism of the movie is that there's too many characters. As I said, they can't spend a lot of time on each character, and I really feel as though that there's an extended cut in this one, because it's not a long movie at all, but they're trying to build up all these different characters, and they just can't give them enough screen time. But the OG characters in this are great. They have a great feel, a great chemistry. So when they're together, you kind of almost forget about the other new Ghostbusters for a minute and go, oh, the OG cast is back and they're busted. And I wish they just had more sort of a time for the OG characters together and stuff like that, because it seems a bit underutilized, almost as if they're so good in this actually, and they don't feel that old at all. Bill Murray's the oldest looking one out of them, but they've all still got it. Especially Ray Stantz, Winston Zeddemore. I think Winston Zeddemore is technically the oldest out of the lot, is he? But they're all fantastic. Annie Potts is great, and they feel as though you could almost have had a Ghostbusters movie with just them in it again, and they'd still do the job. Oh, I forgot Paul Rudd's character, Professor Grooverson. He's funny in it. He has lots of stuff to do, and he, of course, as I said, there's lots of family stuff in this one. So the Spengler family have a lot of stuff to sort out. So to speak. So those sort of scenes, they do spend quite a lot of time on that. As I said, that side arc with Phoebe's character, they spend quite a significant amount of movie time on this. It does sort of like pay back at the end, and it feels really good. At the end, it's like, apart from a few corny scenes, and as I said, the tension was actually cut at one point in the final scene, but I enjoyed it. It's a really fun movie. I don't think you'll come away disappointed. If you're a Ghostbusters fan, you should definitely go see this. But ultimately, I think there's probably going to be a lot of criticism over there's just too many characters in this movie and they don't flesh them out enough. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. I had a good time watching this, and I'm going to go back and watch it with the kids. I just watched it on my own this time, but I'm going to go back with the kids. Now, I just actually watched on the weekend Ghostbusters Afterlife with 12-year-old Sagan. It was his first time watching it, and I actually got a new appreciation for Afterlife, and I really enjoyed it. You can tell that he really loved it. He thought it was absolutely fantastic. He loves the lore and everything else. He loves the mini marshmallow men and then the Stay Puft Marshmallow Men, and they're in this movie quite a bit. In fact, more scenes than you would think they'd be in. You'd think they'd only in this like once or twice, but they're actually in it a fair bit more than that, the little mini Stay Puffs. So they're really milking that cash cow, I think, the Stay Puffs. But they're cute. Everyone loves them. But yeah, I got a new appreciation for Afterlife having watched it with a 12-year-old. And I think this one will be similar. This one actually feels sort of like darker and scarier, although there's not a lot of horror in it, but it's sort of like there's really some dark like overtones to it, but you don't see people get like spiked with the ice and stuff like that. So there's no like gory horror really, but it's kind of a bit more menacing feel than Afterlife. And if you're a fan of the Ghostbusters universe and the lore and everything behind it, there's a lot in this movie. They add a lot of new lore with the Garakan character and how, and all, like, there's just tons of mythology. Ray Stantz is just like expositioning the hell out of this thing, not just in one scene, but all the way throughout. So if you're into Ghostbusters lore, you're probably going to love this. Now, I do believe Dan Aykroyd's on record as saying Ghostbusters is kind of like based on family and lore and stuff like that, and you really get a sense that this is a real family-oriented movie. In fact, some people might not like it because of that. They might go, oh, I don't want to go, I don't care about this, I want to just bust ghosts in New York, right? But no, it's an important part. The Spengler family and the larger Ghostbusters family, you really feel as though that they're pushing that family sort of message, and how you can feel that in the future, they're going to, the Spengler family is basically, and the extended Ghostbusters family is going to take on, and continue the Ghostbusters business, because ultimately that's what it is. The original Ghostbusters is one of the greatest startup movies of all time, business startups. And you can see that in the future, I'm sure they're going to make another one, assuming this one's going to be a hit. They're probably going to make some more, and you can see that they're going to extend and carry on the family tradition of Ghostbusting. So when it came out of the movie, as I said, I felt this was a Ray Stantz movie. Without him, the whole thing just falls apart. He's throughout the whole thing explaining the lore and doing everything, tying this all together. And it's pretty fantastic. And he has like a side relationship with Podcast in this one, which is great as well. And it's just, yeah, it's a Ray Stantz movie. And everyone was hoping, of course, that there would have been a Peter Venkman focused movie. Bill Murray's character, as I said, I think they could all still do this. Winston Zeddemore could have like a more focus on him in another movie, while still transitioning to the younger characters, the Spengler family taking it on. Carrie Coon's character, Carrie Spengler, and Paul Grubenson, of course, who's now kind of like sort of like a stepdad to the two kids, and there's the Spengler family is going to continue on the tradition, and that's what the future movies are going to be, and I'm all for it. It's great. So what do I rate this? Well, it's tough. I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. I think I'm going to have to watch it again, of course. I'm going to go with the kids, so the kids might give a fresh perspective, just like they did for Ghostbusters Afterlife. So overall, you could say it's probably not as good as Afterlife, perhaps, but ultimately it is different from Afterlife, because this is a Ray Stantz movie. They're back in New York, they're busting ghosts while trying to do all these other characters, so it's got to lose a few points. Some people probably won't rate it highly because there's just too many characters that don't have time to flesh it out. And the movie has tons of familiar stuff from the existing movies. So lots of Easter eggs. I'm sure if I watch it again, there's going to be like a ton of stuff you pick up. But as I said, I feel like there's stuff in the trailer, multiple things in the trailer that are not in this movie. Where did they go? I don't know. I'd love to see an extended cut of this thing because I think people are probably sick of long movies at the cinema these days. Everyone seems to complain about them, so maybe they tried to tighten the screws on this one. They probably tightened it a bit too much, and they probably could have lost a character or two perhaps, and they maybe spent too long on maybe the Phoebe Spengler side quest kind of thing, which did tie together in the end reasonably nicely, but yeah, a lot of the movie is devoted to that. But I love how they build up the new lore. There's tons of new lore in it, and it's fun movie. There's tons of original callbacks, and there's it's pretty fun. Even though in parts you're going to think it's probably a bit slow. The beginning, I won't tell you what the beginning is, but it's kind of not in the same order as that you see it in the trailers anyway. So yeah, if you forget about story, I just and give it a fun rating, I'd give it like a 9 out of 10. I thought it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, maybe a 7 out of 10 overall, but of course every Ghostbusters fan is going to go watch this, and you're probably not going to be disappointed. There's tons of stuff in here to keep you happy, but as always, you can't please everyone, and there's going to be a ton of people complaining, oh, I wish they did this and this and this. And of course, yes, but they are back in New York, they're having fun, they're busting ghosts, the OG cast is back, Annie Potts suits up, which I've always wanted. I wanted that in Ghostbusters Afterlife, but we didn't get it. But we get it in this one, but they could have used the OG characters a bit more. But the OG cast, they really do shine in this movie, but Ray Stantz is the one that's used the most. Wish there was more Winston Zeddemore. Of course, you wish there's always more Peter Venkman, but the stuff he does in this is really quite good. He did more than phone this one in. I definitely wanted more Annie Potts. I would have liked to have seen, like in the original Ghostbusters, where Winston and Ray are just, chilling in the car, trying to, explain things and think this thing through and reflect on stuff. And, well, you kind of wish that there was a bit more of that in this movie. Maybe there is on the cutting room floor, I don't know, and they chopped it out. But yeah, the OG cast were on fire in this one, I thought. They just probably, apart from Ray Stantz, a little bit underutilized. So yeah, that brings my rating down a bit, and too many characters, they could have chopped a few out. But I enjoyed it. Go and watch it. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire gets a thumbs up. It doesn't suck, okay? It's definitely worth watching. It probably won't be your favorite, but I don't know, if you're a Ray Stantz fan, maybe. Anyway, that's enough of that. Thoughts and comments down below. Catch you next time.